They don't know each other. Different cities, different winters. Same last moments, a crowded bar, a quick text. I'm good. Be home soon. A dead phone and a body in the water. Days or weeks later, no robbery, no obvious fight, wallet still in pockets. Sometimes, near the spot where the current gives them back, a crude spray-painted face looks out from concrete, 2 dots and a curve, as if someone signed the scene. If this is coincidence, it's the cruelest kind. If it's a pattern, it's been hiding in plain sight for 25 years. Start in New York City, winter of the late 1990s. A college student disappears after leaving a bar on the Upper East Side. It's freezing, the streets shine with black ice, and the river looks like a bad decision stretched to the horizon. Friends think he caught a cab. He didn't. 6 weeks later, his body surfaces miles downstream. The official line is fast. Drowning, alcohol, night, city, case closed. But the distance nags at everyone who has ever watched a map and asked how water moves a person so far without anyone seeing them go in. Jump to Minneapolis, Halloween weekend in the early 2000s. A senior is ejected from a downtown bar. Cameras catch him crossing a bridge alone. Months later, after snow comes and goes, he is found in the Mississippi near an eddy that knows how to keep secrets. Again, drowning. Again, no sign of robbery. Again, a family hears probability used as comfort and does not feel comforted. Move to Boston. A young man leaves a game, calls his girlfriend, says he'll be home soon. His phone pings near the river and then goes quiet. He's found days later. The autopsy reads like a standard drowning. Water in the lungs, minor scrapes, alcohol present. To the people who loved him, nothing about him fits the narrative of a man who would go to the water on purpose. Now, Pittsburgh. A grad student finishes a night out, texts, "Almost home." Cameras lose him near a bridge. Weeks later, he surfaces. It's winter again. The river is a machine that preserves and delays. Officials say drowning. Friends say he was a planner, careful with his steps. The city learns how many cameras don't exist in the places you need them most. Then the smaller river towns, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Columbus, Ohio, Kansas City, along the Hudson, in Chicago, scattered across the Midwest and Northeast. The names change. The arc refuses to. College-age men, athletic or academic, vanish after leaving a bar or party, often alone, often close to a river. The body is recovered days to months later. The wallet is usually there. Keys, too. Sometimes the phone. Toxicology shows alcohol and not much else. The autopsy calls it drowning. The family calls it something that doesn't have a word yet. Add the rumor that becomes a brand. Near some recovery sites, on a wall or a culvert, or a bridge abutment, somebody finds a smiley face sprayed in paint. It's not always there. It's not rare graffiti. But once you hear the detail, you start seeing it everywhere, like a song you can't stop noticing in the background of unrelated scenes. What threads these nights together is a narrow window of vanishing between "I am fine" and no signal, between the camera that last saw them and the current that keeps them. The space is small enough to feel designed and big enough to swallow certainty whole. Part 2. The investigators who say it's organized. 2 retired NYPD detectives, Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, give the theory bones and a name the press can resist. Smiley face killers. Their claim isn't that one person is responsible for everything, but that organized offenders may be operating in multiple cities, targeting a similar victim profile, briefly holding victims, then using water to erase evidence, staging accidents where the environment launders the truth. They drive river miles in winter and spring. They photograph walls. They talk to bar staff, bartenders who remember cutting someone off, bouncers who escorted someone out, friends who assumed a stranger would become a ride. They map last-seen locations and recovery sites and notice that many bodies are found in places supposedly searched earlier. Either search patterns fail and rivers can make good searchers look clumsy, or someone returned the victim to the water later. They collect forensic oddities. cell phones that appear to move after the last known contact, traveling along river walks or alleys before they go dark, lividity patterns that suggest a body rested in a non-water position for a while before immersion, sharp clustered bruises on upper arms and torsos that look more like restraint than a fall, though water can do strange things to soft tissue, watch bands intact, cash present, no robbery narrative to cleanly plug in. When they say organized, they don't mean cinematic evil. They mean someone who learns a city's rhythms, closing times, blind corners, where the sound of a river eats the sound of a struggle. Someone who understands that winter water can delay discovery, slow decomposition, and scrub away trace transfer. Someone who knows how long a phone will keep pinging if you are still moving it in your hand. They also hire a geospatial analyst to cool their enthusiasm. He draws probability circles. Where bars cluster against water, you will get more drunks near rivers. Where bridges and river walks are part of ordinary paths home, you will get more accidental drownings. He does not say there is no pattern, only that some clusters are baked into the map. The detectives press on. They use the phrase, hold and dump. It explains bodies found long after a river was searched, fresh enough to raise eyebrows. It accounts for the tidy pockets, the phones that go on small private journeys after the owner no longer can. It explains why a victim who texted, "on my way," never made the next camera, because the route got interrupted by someone else's plan. They're not alone. Private investigators in college towns keep informal lists. Parents share timelines and autopsies with strangers who become allies. The cases accumulate like stones in a pocket. None is heavy enough to prove the theory, but together they make walking feel different. In 2008, after reviewing a selection of cases, the FBI issues a statement. No evidence of a serial killer or organized group. Their reasoning is pragmatic. Young, intoxicated men drowning in urban rivers is both tragic and statistically common, where nightlife rubs shoulders with water. Rivers are efficient at destroying trace and creating illusions. Eddies hold, dams delay, ice preserves, bodies resurface, where currents require. Previously searched doesn't mean previously searchable. The Bureau warns against stitching separate accidents into a single monster. Medical examiners make related points. Classic drowning leaves signs, foam in airways, fluid in lungs, diatoms in marrow, while also failing to produce the clear trauma you'd expect from an assault. Cold water changes the timeline of decomposition. Immersion softens skin and confuses bruise interpretation. Post-mortem drift can move bodies far from the entry point. Bridge hydraulics can rotate and hold them where nobody looks first. Minimal trauma is not code for no trauma. It's what water does when gravity, not fists, did the first harm. Hydrologists add math. Nighttime air near water can be 10,020 degrees Celsius colder than street level. Judgment erodes quickly. If you stumble onto a gently sloped embankment in winter, you may not feel how slick it is until your center of gravity is already wrong. Once in, cold shock takes your breath. Gasp reflex fills lungs. Swim failure follows. Without a ladder, most rivers are vertical walls in disguise. Skeptics also criticize selection bias. If you only count men, only count those who drank, only count cities with rivers, and only count winter cases, you'll print a constellation on top of a night sky that already had stars. Tagging every smiley face within a mile of water in North American cities produces a haunted-looking map because smiley faces are common graffiti, not because a syndicate is signing murders. But even skeptics quietly admit that some details don't fit cleanly. The phone that travels, the lividity that suggests a pause before immersion, the body that appears exactly where divers insist they looked hard. Those are outliers, they say. Outliers happen. Advocates reply, outliers are where homicide hides. Between these postures lives the uncomfortable middle. Most cases likely are accidents plus some cases deserve more work than they got. Both sentences can be true. If the truth arrived in percentages, it might look like this. A large share of these deaths are missteps wrapped in bad minutes. Alcohol, cold, poor lighting, no railings, a shortcut by water that turns into a slope you don't feel until you were falling. A smaller share might be opportunistic violence at the edges of nightlife. Robbers or predators who push, panic, or hold, then hide the evidence in a current. An even smaller set could be group dynamics gone wrong, a dare that curdled, a fight nobody planned to have, a secret nobody knew how to report. And the painted face? Often nothing, sometimes a coincidence people turn into a compass. Rarely, maybe, someone's private signature that means more to them than it ever can to us. But percentages don't save anyone. Design does. Cities can light riverwalks like runways, extend railings, add barriers and cameras at black spot cut-throughs, and install ladders every 50, 100 meters. Smart buoys can watch for human-sized impacts and ping responders in minutes. Bars can train staff to flag lone patrons, offer walkout escorts at closing, and post a simple rule: friends, don't let friends say goodbye at the threshold. Police can treat just a drowning with the same rigor as any violent death for the first 24 or 48 hours. Full scene workup at last seen. Phone and card metadata pull, canvas for private cams, and a second autopsy opinion when families raise specific inconsistencies. For families living in the gap between the last text and the river, there's one more truth: speed matters. The difference between a missing person report filed at 9 a.m. and at 3 p.m. can be the difference between recovering a phone on a bench and never seeing it again. Universities can enroll students in opt-in location sharing for late-night walks. Rideshare pickup zones can be moved away from rivers. Small, boring changes beat grand theories every time. So what most likely happened? Many accidents in hostile environments, and a meaningful minority that deserved stronger suspicion than they received. That's not a tidy ending, but it's honest, and honesty is the thing these families asked for first. If you have a theory, post it with humility. If you walked home alone last night, don't tonight. If your city has a river, ask it to behave like a neighbor, not a trap. And remember the names before the pattern: students and sons who were more than the shape of their last hour. This is Case 13. Tomorrow, another story that refuses to behave. Tonight, the line you repeat on the way out of every bar. Text when you get home. And if you can, walk together. Start with New York. Winter in Manhattan changes how distance feels. Patrick, a college student, leaves an Upper East Side bar and disappears between one camera and the next. Friends assume a cab. The East River has other plans. Weeks later, he's recovered miles downstream. The wallet is there. The timeline is not. The official finding reads like a template: alcohol, water, cold. But the family keeps circling two things: how far he traveled, and why nobody saw him cross the handful of places where a stumble turns into a fall. Shift to Minneapolis. Halloween season. Chris, kicked out of a downtown bar, is last seen crossing a bridge alone. Winter tightens the river like a belt. Spring loosens it and returns him months later. The injuries are mostly what water does, but the case won't sit still. Over years, statements change. Small details surface, and the department eventually revises how it describes what happened that night. The revision doesn't convict anyone, it does something stranger. It convinces people that a story can move even when the facts don't. Now Pittsburgh. Dakota walks out of a bar after a normal night. Cameras catch pieces, not the path. He texts that he's almost home. Days later, he's in the river, found near infrastructure that eats sound. His family pushes for independent review. Private experts say some marks look like restraint. Official reports say water and walls can write the same bruises. Nearby concrete carries the kind of graffiti every city knows: 2 dots and a curve. Is it evidence or coincidence? The answer changes depending on what you walked in believing. These aren't outliers chosen to prove a point. They are the shape that makes this story look like more than statistics. Last seen near nightlife, no robbery, water does the rest. Families who don't buy accident. If you want the pattern, you can see it from space. If you want the counter-argument, you can see that too. Bridges, rivers, cold, and 1,000 small chances to misstep. Rivers are not highways. They are machines with moods. They hold, they turn, they lie. Cold shock and swim failure. Fall in at night, and the first second is a trap. Gasp reflex pulls water in. Peripheral vessels clamp down. Strength goes to 0 in under a minute. Even strong swimmers lose the argument with cold water in clothes. Hydraulics. Bridge piers create standing eddies, recirculating zones that hold objects for days. Divers swear they searched there. The river swears it wasn't done with the body yet. When levels change, an eddy releases what it kept, making it look like someone dumped later. Post-mortem drift. Bodies don't float right away. Early on they walk the bottom, moving with the slower near-bed current. After gases form, they rise and sail with wind as much as water. That's how you get recoveries miles from plausible entries without a conspiracy in the middle. Diatoms and limits. Labs look for microscopic algae in marrow to confirm drowning. Useful, but dirty. Diatoms are everywhere. Contamination is easy. Negative results don't acquit. And positives can overconvict a river that wasn't the first harm. Bruising in water. Immersion macerates skin. Contact with rocks, docks, or ladders can create post-mortem artifacts that read like grip marks. The opposite problem also exists. Real restraint bruises can soften into ambiguity. Water turns this into maybe. Search technology. Side-scan sonar draws black and white X-rays of the riverbed, but geometry, bubbles, and junk return false confidence. A cleared grid at 9 a.m. is not the same grid at 9 p.m. Currents redecorate. When families hear we looked there, they imagine certainty. Seasoned divers hear we looked there once. All of that explains how accident survives scrutiny. It doesn't explain phones that move, lividity that hints at pause, bodies in searched spots, the few cases that won't collapse into physics. Those are the ones advocates mean when they say pattern. Imagine an offender or small group, not a movie villain, patient opportunists. They learn the closing rhythms of a district and the blind zones between cameras. They watch for a profile, late, alone, phone in hand, socially compliant, the kind who will accept help that sounds like a plan. Shortcut to parking? This way. Intercept. A nudge more than a grab, steer, not snatch. The first move is isolation, alley, stairwell, door that closes. The second is silence, a quick blow, a choke, or simply fear, plus commands. Phones can be pocketed and walked along the river trail to create a false path before being tossed. Hold, not days, hours, a garage, a van, a maintenance space nobody checks. During that window, lividity sets in patterns water can't write. After midnight, when streets go empty, the offender uses access spots, breaks in railings, low banks, to stage a fall. Water takes it from there. If someone nearby has been tagging the area for years, a smiley face might get painted and repainted without ever meaning what we want it to. Could this happen in many cities for decades without a whistleblower? That's the skeptic's strongest card. But could it happen in a few cases, clustered by chance, and then be over-applied by people hungry for a system in a story full of chaos? That is the ground most reasonable viewers end up standing on. Most likely is not a verdict, it's direction. The fairest read is that many of these deaths are accidents born of design and circumstance, hostile waterfronts, dark paths, winter air, alcohol, no ladders, and that a meaningful minority deserved more suspicion and more work than they got. Both can be true. Both demand action. Street design, extend guardrails, add anti-climb panels where nightlife borders water, put throwbag stations and escape ladders every 5,100 meters, light the desire paths people actually use. Bar policy. Train staff to spot lone, impaired patrons and offer walkouts. Create safe pickup zones away from rivers. Push Leave Together campaigns as hard as drink specials. Police playbook for just a drowning. For the first 24 or 48 hours, treat last scene as a crime scene. Seize CCTV beyond the immediate block. Pull card, phone metadata. Do a secondary autopsy review if families raise specific inconsistencies, and run side scan sonar grids twice on different tides, campus and city tech. Opt-in companion apps that share live location to friends. Geofence alerts that ping if a phone lingers at a river edge after midnight. Smart buoys that detect human-sized impacts and notify responders automatically. Public conversation. Stop mocking families who reject accident. Grief is not a lab error, it's a hypothesis generator, and stop turning every smiley into a signature. Most are just paint. So what most likely happened? In aggregate, a lot of missteps in dangerous places, and some nights that weren't accidents at all. The water hides both equally well. The job isn't to pick a side, it's to build a city where fewer families ever have to ask. If you came for certainty, the river won't give it to you. If you came to be useful, walk your friends to the car, choose the lit route, text when you get home, and ask your city for ladders it should have installed 20 years ago. This is Case 13. Leave your theory with respect. Tomorrow, another story that refuses to behave.